us, what do I say, old boys?
Older boys.
Older boys. Well, I'm speaking on behalf of the lay teachers, not just on my own behalf. And I suppose the first thing I know we'd all want to say is a word of thanks to the discussions who are represented here by Father Cornelius and Father Bonaventure, for making our lives in Melleray such pleasant lives. And we are very, very grateful to them, and I'd like to begin by saying that. The second thing I'd like to say is, in the word of the Scriptures, it is good for us to be here. And I'd like to express a great word of thanks to Pat and Brian, as it would seem to have been the prime movers in getting this wonderful evening off the ground. Really, it's wonderful. I started in Melleray in 1962. And when I went there were all sorts of stories about great old teachers, Paddy Mulcahy and Tommy Olden and Sean Corrine. And apparently there was a chap called King Griffin. I wasn't there at this time, but they told me on Sunday afternoon he was to ride over to Lismore Castle for afternoon tea. Well, now, when I went there then, the teachers who were there at that time were people that many of you will remember. Jack McCarthy. Jack is still to the good, and he's almost 90, and I know he'd love to be here this evening. Brendan Breen, if he were here, he'd just love to be doing what I'm doing, have the opportunity to talk to you. And he sadly passed away last year. And Hugh Colgan just died also a few years ago. You have also here with you tonight, of course, two teachers who were there when I went, Pat Keevers and Stan Deneen, who, as well as being teachers in the school, had been, of course, Pat's pupils, so they're here wearing two hats this evening. And later on then, while I was there, Con Buckley came and Brendan Keeley, and towards the end then Matt Foley. Now there are various other teachers who came maybe for a year or so, and I had at the time, Pat has warned me, he said please don't go on all night. So I can't talk about those. Some of you I know will remember some of them with affection and maybe with other things as well. I've just been reminded that I made a terrible omission, and that is a really big omission. A man who lives so near me, in fact, where I live in Youghal, and who was a much beloved colleague of mine in Melleray for so long, and that is Michael O'Connell. Apologies. And of course, at that time when I came to Melleray, there was a man there who was a legend before that, and who remained a legend while I was there, and was still a legend, and that is Jack Fraser. He has promised me that later on in the evening he's going to do a double back summer talk to amazing. The question I was asking myself when Pat asked me to say a few words was why we found it so pleasant as teachers in Melleray. We really did. I think none of us would have wanted to leave it, and we're very sad when it closed. And I sort of said, was it the mountain air, or was it the kindness of the sessions, because that was really, beyond praise. Or, I said, was it the great friendliness among the teachers themselves. I mean, there were 9 of us lay teachers, and 5/9 of the lay staff used to play golf together once a week in Lismore, and you probably didn't know about this, but they used to also play poker together. Yes, well, I was thinking about those things, but having come here tonight now, I really feel, having met you and having felt the atmosphere, that the real reason we were so happy in Melleray was because of you. And so I'd like to thank you very much for being here. What are the memories that stand out? Well, there are various memories for me. One memory that really stands out is the tour. I don't know if any of you remember the tour or not. We would head out in the darkness up into the mountains by bus to Clonmel, and then by train to Dublin, and then we went to Guinness's Brewery and Jacob's Biscuits and the zoo. I always took my group to the zoo because I felt most at home there. Another thing that I remember, there was a great musical tradition most of the time in Melleray, and a great tradition of plays. Brendan Breen was very involved, of course, and Brendan Keeley in the presenting and the putting on of plays. And then you had people like Staska Brewer earlier on, and Sandy Boyer, and Mihal O'Callaghan involved in latter years in putting on musicals. And when I saw Danny O'Connor tonight, I couldn't help remembering Buttercup. When the closure came, we really were very sad, and we'd all like to have stayed, but it wasn't to be. You may be just wondering what happened to us all. Well, 5 of the teachers, including myself, went to the Friary in Dungarvan. 3 of those are now not with us in the Friary anymore. Pat Keevers and myself were the only 2 that are left. In the last year, some of you probably wouldn't know him, but Frank Galvin came just in the very last year to make a last-ditch effort to keep the show on the road, but even he failed, and the school closed, and he came to Dungarvan. But 2 who went to Dungarvan at that time died since, and they're Brendan Breen, as I mentioned earlier, and Hugh Colgan, as you will have remembered. Brendan Keeley, I know from talking to people around here, various people, you know, he was held in the highest esteem, you know, and he was held also in the highest esteem by us, his colleagues, and he went to Tullow in County Carlow. I think it was the closure of the school, and you know, you wonder who was to blame for it. Various people have been blamed, and I think, like the story did, it's a little bit like the killing of President Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald is the one generally blamed. There's a lot of question marks over it, people have looked into it and so on. I think my assertion, friends, will forgive me for saying that we were trying to blame Don Paul Hennessy for the closure. But Mike O'Connell, if I can come back to it, having left him out initially, he left Melleray and went to Fermoy, to the Christian Brothers School in Fermoy, and a couple of years later, it closed also. And then he moved to the Christian Brothers in Youghal, and I was watching it very, very carefully for several years. And an interesting method too of Mike is that he has diversified it, which sort of raises a question mark over the thing, just in case he feels that there's a danger of it closing as well. And he is now one of the best known innkeepers in Youghal. A new career. Dan Deneen, he moved at that time to the Sacred Heart College in Carricknavar, where he has been teaching since. And Con Buckley, he got tired of teaching boys altogether and went to teach young ladies in the Loreto Convent in Youghal. Have I left anybody out now? I hope not. So, in conclusion then, I would just like again to say thank you to the people, or thank you to 2 groups, and the people who organised the lovely night tonight for us. And I'd like to thank you also to all of you for the time that we were together in Melleray. I'd like to thank you for the fact that you put bread on our tables, I suppose you could say, and that you were very easy to get on with, and that we had a pleasant time. I'd like to also say a word of apology, maybe, because I suppose teachers are there to encourage and to build, but in the nature of human beings, there are things we do sometimes which diminish people. And I'm conscious that this is something that we all do from time to time, and if we've diminished any of you in any way, I know that my colleagues and I would like to say that we are sorry for that, and all we would want to do is to give you every possible encouragement. And finally, I would like to wish you everything that is good for the future. That if you are strong now and doing well now, that things will go from strength to strength. and if you are weak now, that you will become strong. And so again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. I would now like to take the opportunity to congratulate and honour a special commitment of another kind. Many of you will be very surprised to learn that the sprightly and youthful volleyball adventure is celebrating its 50th anniversary in the community this year. I'm sure that you'll accept our heartiest congratulations, and I call on Father Dennis McGillicuddy to give you this little presentation on our behalf.
Congratulations. You want to get your want to be 4 million euros.
Father Canadian, would like to return to the podium?
Our Broderick reminded me of something I forgot, and that is put in a special request to Daddy O'Connor. Here's something from the gondoliers or Daddy.
Buttercup, we want buttercup. Dinner for you, forgot that one.
That's right.
No.
But you will do it later on then. And you'll sing as well? While we're on the subject, Father Cornelius mentioned the very successful debating team, and perhaps I'd like to call on Leo Martin this opportunity to give us a few words and represent the successful debating team. Thanks, Leo.
I feel after that absolutely sincere and superhuman homily this evening from Father Manners' Small Adventure that I can address everybody as friends, because I'm sure before I sit down I'll be found out. I'd like to associate myself with a lot of the comments that have gone before me. I always have made it a point when I was debating never to come number 3, never to come last, because everything has been said. However, having said that, I'd like to associate particularly with Honourable Broderick's comments concerning the gratitude that we owe to Pat and to Brian and to Charlie this evening, because I think that, and to the people who have helped them, because I think they've done a super job, and I thank them. I did have a little insight earlier this afternoon. I happened to know the manager here, and I was chatting to him, and he said to me that he was talking about the negotiations he had with Pat and the team, and he said, you know, I had some very strange requests from them. He said, the first thing he said to me was that they wanted to try and create some atmosphere in the college. So when I brought up the question, this is the manager speaking, of reserving rooms, they said, oh no, we'd like you to set aside a large area, about an acre, 80 beds and 80 metal wardrobes. But then he said they then went on to ask about the bathrooms, and they said, could the hotel arrange that baths would only deliver 3 inches of hot water? However, they then asked them if they could arrange for every 8 baths to be free flowing with hot water. So with all the prefects stand up, please. Also, a very strange request, they asked that there would be no duvets whatsoever. And when asked why, they said, they want old-fashioned sheets and blankets, because that's the only way you can give French beds. The final one was very strange. When asked about the eating arrangements, they said, no, we don't want any service. We'd like you to set up little wooden wheels in the corners of the room, and everything will be self-service and swung around. However, on a serious note, I'd just like to make a few. I believe that Melleray aims to provide the best education available. I believe they provide it within a structured but personalised teaching environment. I think it sought to foster in its students the attainment of academic excellence, but always relative to natural ability, and always with an eye to the development of both moral responsibility and a refinement of feeling. A strong tradition of the school was that of the personal commitment of the academic staff, and I think Oliver Broderick has embodied that in his comments tonight, and I salute that. Academic excellence within the parameters of individual abilities was always a priority, and I certainly was always very proud of the sense of individual and collective responsibility encouraged by the college. Students of the college were helped to see through, and if necessary, to withstand pressure from outside or from peer groups. Mount Melleray encouraged an understanding by its students of the existence of spiritual values as well as material value in life. Students were always made aware of their own worth and encouraged to show concern for and tolerance of others. And I think that is what Father Cornelius has asked us to continue in his comments this evening. A primary objective, I always felt, was that students were educated to recognise the moral imperatives and be unafraid to act upon them. The college aims to imbue its students with a sense of pride in their own country and a sense of confidence and commitment to its future. We were encouraged as students to recognise that personal endeavour, integrity and a sense of social justice could provide an adequate level of prosperity at both a personal and a national level. All of this took place in the context of a school community which encouraged the emergence of vibrant, concerned and motivated students. That, gentlemen, was the ethos of the college, and that was the ethos that Pat was referring to in his opening remarks. How unfortunate it is to contrast that exemplary ethos to today's realities in business, politics and sport. Within business, both national and international, the community at large is extremely badly served by a lack of adequate corporate governance and poor ethical standards. From Greencourt to Eurocabin, Goodman to Telecom here in Ireland, Brent Walker, Polytech or BCCI in the UK, Drexel, Burnham, Solomon Brothers in the US and Melleray in Japan, the masters of the universe, as Tom Wolfe so well described, the greed-filled Wall Street types earning the telephone numbers, salaries, who feed on their fellow man by way of the fix, the stroke, the deal, commonly described as financial engineering, and which by its nature is totally alien to basic sound principles of good business ethical practice. Within politics, a look back at the last 20 years epitomises the hackneyed phrase of low standards in high places, no matter what colour, shade or political allegiance one has. And unfortunately, amid sportsmen too, the illusions of moral purity have been shot. Against that background, compare the principles, the ideals, the ethos of the college that we have been privileged to be past pupils of. And I can say with conviction, it was a sad day that I learned of the college closure. While I accept it, I never quite understand it. But I ask you to charge your glasses, or to join me in a toast to the ethos of Mount Melleray. Thank you very much.
You did mention a moral sportsman in your brief notes there, and I would like to take this opportunity to make a small presentation to one who caused many of the old war injuries that we're still grimacing with occasion to occasion, and I would like to ask Mr. Penny Hall to make a presentation to Mr. Jack Fraser. You can jump it, Jack.
54 in fact.
With fond memories from the Smoker Corner and the Hoodoo Brigade.
So he called him as the captain.
Is that right, boy? I thought you were depressed after the month of fine, Mark.
Can't win it every year.
Even well as the Mark Foley thing. I would like to now be the bearer of some good news for a change, and I know that there are many farmers among you here this evening who are likely to suffer at the hands of Ray McSharry and his new cap proposals. Well, I'm very pleased to be the bearer of some good news. Our next speaker, wearing his Revenue Commissioner's hat, confirmed to me before the dinner that the cost of this evening's meal and any refreshments purchased for overseas guests will be fully tax allowable in this year's account. From my behalf of the students and seminarians, Mr. Michael Rodney.
Thank you, Pat. You should be so lucky. Reverend Fathers, gentlemen, and my classmates of 1970, who fall into neither category. Looking around this room at my erstwhile colleagues, I'm struck by two thoughts. Firstly, how respectable you've all become, which is far from how I remember most of you. Secondly, how old you've all become. Until today, I hadn't let the days pass at all. I should explain why I'm here. You may well be asking yourself, why am I speaking on behalf of the students? Well, it arises due to a misunderstanding and two misconceptions. The misunderstanding was on the part of the first 25 people who were asked that they wanted a fee. And the first misconception was on the part of Pat when he asked me, and thinking that I might be either witty or wise for all of 7 minutes. The second misconception was on my part, and I thought I'd get a free dinner out of it. Apropos of the 7 minutes, I'm under instructions from Pat to confine my comments to only 7 minutes. And Pat, of course, is a bank manager, and in keeping with a long tradition of lying to bank managers, I intend to speak for considerably longer. On a more serious note, I am greatly honoured to have been asked to speak here this evening. I'm humbled by the knowledge that there are several of you here who are more deserving of that honour and better qualified to the task than I am. But for that, I had no hesitation in accepting when Pat asked me, because it gives me an opportunity to express many thoughts that have passed through my mind since leaving Melleray in 1970, and I hope in expressing those thoughts that I'll be speaking for all of us. I think the size of this gathering is testimony to the affection in which we hold Melleray as a place and the people. No one here will claim that they enjoyed every moment of it. No one would claim that it was an easy regime. But I think everybody would accept that it was a regime designed, and again, taking Leo Martin's points on board, it was a regime designed to equip us with a discipline, a knowledge, and a set of values, such as to prepare us for what lay ahead. I think nobody would claim, nobody would deny, but that they have been shaped, changed, and tempered by their passage through Melleray. The time that we spent there has certainly influenced the course of our lives, our personal philosophies, and our values. It's only with the passage of time, I think, that we come to realise the awesome responsibility that was placed on the shoulders of the staff and congregation in Melleray in transforming generations of unruly, ungrateful, frequently unwashed urchins into something approaching manhood. Those of us for whom the wheel has turned full circle and find ourselves with similar offspring of our own know only too well the difficulties involved. And very often in facing those difficulties we find ourselves relying on the values that were imbued in us in Melleray, and thus the influences that shaped us continue through us to shape the next generation. So it is indeed an awesome responsibility. I'd like to take the opportunity then to express the gratitude of all of us here
for the dedication and enthusiasm with which the staff and the congregation in Melleray discharged that responsibility. One figure stands as something of a colossus in the minds of all students of my vintage. He is a man of tremendous energy and strength, dedication. He's a man who could deliver a look of such laser intensity, such withering disbelief, as to make the most carefully crafted excuses for misbehaviour sound hollow, even as their inventors utter them. It was a look which we felt saw deep into the murky depths of our souls. I'm speaking, of course, of Father